When Julius Randle is on the court, he keeps the ball away from R.J. Barrett. R.J. doesn't touch the ball enough when Julius Randle is on the court. And what's that do? It takes away shots for R.J. Barrett to hit. And R.J. Barrett, when he is on the court and when he is playing at the top of his game, he's shooting 12 for 18, 12 for 19. Those are good percentages. And what R.J. does very, very well is go to the hole and draw fouls. He's very good at that. He's become a little bit better of a foul shooter this year. I think he's 76%. Coming into the league, I think he was at 69. So
he was worse than Zion at Duke.
Right. So he's a better foul shooter now, and he'll get even better. I really do believe that because he works really, really hard on and off the court. He really does. When you think of RJ, try to compare and contrast the leadership that he is going to bring in the future and his ability to dominate a game. Now, the thing that bothers me about this team right now is why is Julius Randle playing 40 minutes a game? Why isn't Obi Toppin playing more than 21 minutes a game? Why isn't these players that we drafted over the last couple of years, the Quickleys of the world, the Grimes of the world? I know Grimes is hurt right now. He's going to be out for a couple of weeks. That's fine. Sims, why isn't he playing more? You look at this team is not a good team. We don't know when Derrick Rose is coming back, obviously. We're not going to see Kemba Walker for the rest of the season. So why isn't Tom Thibodeau bringing in these young players and seeing what you have? You make a trade with Atlanta. Cam Reddish is a good player. When he is on the court, when he actually gets the ball and has a chance to shoot the ball, Cam Reddish is good. But for some reason, Tom Thibodeau don't like him. Now, if Tom Thibodeau didn't like him, why did Leon Rose make a trade for him? Because now, going into the offseason, Leon Rose is going to have to make a decision. Do I get rid of Tom Thibodeau, who won the Coach of the Year last year? Or do I get rid of Cam Reddish, who is going to be expecting a big contract? Now, I don't know how big he's going to get. Maybe he gets $70 million. I think he thinks he's going to get more, but he's not. But he's going to get somewhere around Tim Hardaway Jr. type of money. 76, 75 million. Cam Reddish is a good player. He really is. And do I think he could be a better player than we've seen so far? Absolutely. He doesn't touch the ball a lot. He shoots 6 shots a game. We don't know what Cam Reddish is because when he shoots 6 shots a game, he hits 3 out of 6. That's a pretty good percentage. Half his shots go in. If he shot as many shots as Julius Randle, does he score more than Julius Randle? I absolutely believe he does. The problem right now with this team is Tom Thibodeau plays all these old players who are just absolutely obnoxious, and I'm talking about Julius Randle, and these younger players that we want to see, and we want to see how they develop and how they develop under his offense and his tutelage. It's just not working. And what does that tell me? That tells me going into the offseason, Leon Rose and Mr. Wesley is going to have to decide if Tom Thibodeau is the guy moving forward with this young team, Speedy.
This is the perfect time to experiment with different options in terms of young players and let them develop other skills. You have a point guard in Kemba Walker that's not going to play the rest of the season. They've mutually agreed. Derrick Rose is hurt. Let R.J. Barrett experiment as that. Let Emmanuel Quigley experiment as that. Now, Quentin Grimes is hurt. I don't know if he's really much of a point guard anyway, but at least give him some reps. Let him do that kind of thing because we've seen a lot of teams do well with wing players bringing the ball up now. It takes the pressure off of pure point guard. Right. It takes the pressure off of pure point guards that maybe if you draft one, then you don't wear them out later on, or you sign one, or you trade for one, whatever the scenario ends up being for the Knicks. They end up doing that. And also it could help the players take the next step. R.J. Barrett is a guy that has a potential to be a well-rounded prospect. Now, he wasn't thought of at Duke as a pure point guard and developing to a pure point guard. He was thought of more as a top wing player at his highest upside. But that doesn't mean he couldn't do that kind of thing. He improved as a passer progressively throughout last season, at the end of last season. This season, he started off slow and improved as a passer. When he peaked as a passer, too, in the middle of the season, he was averaging 4 or 5 assists a game a lot of those games, too, when he actually did get to touch the ball, but he doesn't get to do so very often. But there's no reason with the Knicks struggling the way they are that these guys shouldn't be at least experimented with. If they still lose, they still lose, and they are back to where they probably would have been if they still played these veteran guys.
Well, they keep getting embarrassed by the 76ers. That's for damn sure. James Harden absolutely embarrassed them in 76erville, Philadelphia. The Knicks should be ashamed of themselves.
If they're winning with this philosophy, okay, that's different, but they're not. So at what point do you have to say, let's try to play these young guys, see what you have out of them, and then realize, okay, can we build a core with this team? Can we use these guys as trade chips where you get good value for a big-name player that the Knicks have been rumored to for quite a while? They have to try something because they know Julius Randle as the number one guy is not going to work by any means possible. They know that these veteran point guard platoon. Probably one of them is going to go, if not both. Kemba Walker is probably going to be traded most likely because he doesn't want to be bought out. So, yes, the experiment looked good on paper in the offseason. I thought the Knicks were going to be improving maybe a 3 seed, but it didn't happen. So you have to try something else at this point, and there's no reason to with the way they're losing games.
As far as the Brooklyn Nets are concerned, we know that Kevin Durant is back, but this team has not looked. He had to come back because right now they're an 8 seed, and they're slowly but surely trying to move up in this Eastern Conference that, let's be honest, is better than we thought it was going to be. Milwaukee, Cleveland, Chicago, Miami. And the Nets were supposed to be the best team out of all these teams in the East starting the season with James Harden, Kyrie Irving, and Kevin Durant. Well, now James Harden's playing with Philadelphia, which now is playing better basketball.
Yep.
And you talk about Seth Curry going over there. Let me ask all you fans out there now, what do you think of Seth Curry now? Are you going to try to compare him to his brother Steph? Because he's not. He's a good player. He's a good bench player. He's not going to give you 16, 17 points a game on this team. Kyrie Irving has to play every single day. And if Kyrie Irving doesn't play these home games, it's going to affect where the Nets are going to be and where they're going to be positioned going into the playoffs. They do not want to play a playing game against one of these top, more dangerous teams in the Eastern Conference. Because if they do, they're going to get knocked out more sooner than later. There's no way in hell they're going to go into these games. And if Kyrie Irving, hey, it's got to be a home game for the Nets, and Kyrie Irving isn't playing in that game, there's no way the Nets winning that game.
Whether they win the playing games or not, the playing games are going to be wear and tear on Kevin Durant, who played large amounts of minutes in the postseason last year. He's played large amounts of minutes in the beginning of the season this year when James Harden was really struggling badly and or hurt. Kyrie Irving was obviously gone and not to be heard of. Now, all of a sudden, James Harden is being traded away. Ben Simmons is not going to be back probably for another 2-3 weeks, apparently. So now Kevin Durant, now playing back, is going to have to play even more. So it's going to be hard to ease him in. And if you ease him in, the Nets are probably still going to lose games. They're 3-7 in their last 10 games. They're at 500 right now, which doesn't say much. So even if they make it through the Raptors, the Hornets, and the Hawks, which are currently the other playing teams, then you got to play more games to get there. And that's going to take a toll on somebody like Kevin Durant that is already fatigued to begin with. And that kind of identity doesn't win in the postseason. Isolation basketball, not that Kevin Durant can't be a playmaker and stuff like that, not a shot at him. It's tough to win with just one guy going off the whole time in basketball. You need 2 or 3 guys to really make that kind of thing work. And if Kyrie Irving's not on the court, who's to be that next guy to step up? Joe Harris is now out for the season too. So you're going to trust Seth Curry to be a number 2 option. You're going to trust Blake Griffin.
What is this love fest for Seth Curry?
He's a good bench player, but that's it.
The Net fans and some of these other Knick fans are like, oh, I wanted Seth Curry. Seth Curry's a good player. He is not Steph. I don't want to hear it. And Steph's not having the all-world year this year. What is he averaging, 25 points a game?
Yeah, the 2 months ago MVP talk is gone now.
No, he's not an MVP, but Seth is a good all-around player. He's a better defender than his brother, but he's nothing to sneeze about. I know Net fans and even Knick fans, a.k.a. Eric Martini. By the way, happy birthday to Eric.
Oh, happy birthday, Eric.
I think he's 42 now, so it is his birthday today. But when you think about where the Brooklyn Nets are they a better team without James Harden? The answer is no. And even when Ben Simmons comes back, they're not a better team. So I don't want to hear it from Net fans, whoa, I'm happy to have Ben Simmons. I'm happy to have Seth Curry or Andre Drummond. Andre Drummond is a washed-up center. He's every team's washed-up center. Dwight Howard right now plays for the Lakers. Dwight Howard was one of the best players, one of the top 5 players in the league 5, 6, 7, 8 years ago.
By the way, you want to know the irony of this? You know who ironically just got claimed by the Sixers?
Who?
DeAndre Jordan, who started the season with the Nets.
Figure that one out. You look at the big picture right now. The Brooklyn Nets are not better than they were 2 weeks ago. And to sit here and say that they were when James Harden's laughing because he's hanging out with Meek Mills, he's hanging out with all his rapping buddies, and he's in Philadelphia.
City of brotherly love.
City of brotherly love. And his beautiful beard over there, the bearded man. He's having his fun. He got what he wanted, and he's playing with arguably the MVP right now of the league in Joel Embiid. So he could go into the playoffs in a better position than he would have going to the playoffs with the Brooklyn Nets because Maxey looks like a player. They've got Harris still on that team. This team has a tremendous amount of depth. They're going to score in many different ways. And if Doc Rivers actually teaches this team how to play defense, oh, by the way, they're learning. Maybe this team goes all the way to the finals and wins a championship this year. Who knows? I'm not going to bet on it because I don't bet on James Harden in the playoffs.
Or James Harden playing defense.
That's true, too. But I think James Harden will have one of his best playoff runs we've ever seen him have this year, because I think he's happy where he is. I really think he's legitimately happy over there. Remember when he was in OKC? When he was in OKC, he was a great playoff player. Then he went to the Rockets. He was horrible.
Yep.
And then he went to the Nets. He never got a chance to play in the playoffs. He did last year, but he was hurt. And now this year, he's going to get a chance at full strength to play with as good a player or better player right now in the league, where he has a chance to really show everybody that he can play in the playoffs and show up in the playoffs, and I believe he will. As far as the lockout is concerned, I know baseball fans out there are pulling their hair out of their heads. I would be, too. If you're a New York Mets fan, I would be pulling my hair out of my heads. You make a run for Max Scherzer, you give him what he wants, and he's making 3 years, $47 million. He's the highest paid player in the major leagues.
Major League history.
He's making more money than arguably the best player in all of baseball, Mike Trout. And the Met fans might only get a chance to see him pitch 10 starts this year. That's how bad this is going. Speedy, me and you predicted it was going to happen in May when they're going to come to an agreement.
Yep, I said Memorial Day, and it might even be later than that the way it's going right now.
It's horrible.
Now, there's the two things to look at with the Mets perspective. The positive and the negative. The positive is Max Scherzer had all that fatigue last year. Maybe he'll get a chance now to heal his arm up. Okay, that could help. Jacob deGrom, whatever happened to him in the second half of the season.
A short season, too.
Yeah, so that'll help in that sense. But here's the other thing, too. Pete Alonso's going to lose some service time as well. So how could that affect his next contract is going to be a very interesting thing. Will he be happy about that kind of thing, potentially losing that kind of money or losing that extra year of the eligibility where he get paid more, depending on how these new stipulations of contracts and arbitration come out to be. Now, there hasn't been any evident progress. They're trying to lean towards the 3-year process with the arbitration. So hopefully maybe Pete Alonso could benefit off of that, where the Mets could give him the money right away and not have to wait 3 years down the road, where it could be harder for them with the other big contracts that they have too. And still having Lindor's contract, all the other free agents they signed this offseason too. It's going to be a tough situation for the Mets to do that kind of thing anyway, but for Pete Alonso personally, it could definitely be hard.
It hurts the Yankees too. And the reason why is whoever the Yankees were interested in, the Correas of the world or Freeman from the Braves, as long as this projectedly goes and further pushes off where the season is going to start, the chances of the Yankees adding a guy like Correa or Freeman are slim, because why would you bring these guys in a short season? I could see Freeman signing a 1-year contract, going into a short season with the Braves and wait until next year, show what you could do in a couple of games or whatever, 100 games, what you could do. I bet you his numbers will be a lot better than they were last year, and that's saying a lot because he had a pretty good year too. Yeah. And obviously Carlos Correa, who might just sign a 1-year deal with Houston just to play out this year to go into next year being the top prize as far as shortstops are concerned. So there's a lot of things that could happen. But does this help the Yankees? No, this hurts the Yankees. Where it helps the Yankees is the Yankees have been fighting injuries for the last couple of years. Yep. Being that it's a short season, when you have Aaron Judge, Giancarlo Stanton, DJ LeMahieu, Gleyber Torres, Gary Sanchez, if these guys can actually stay healthy in a shorter season, watch out for the Yankees. The Yankees can win the whole thing. I don't like their starting rotation like the Mets with their 2 starters, but I think they have more depth than the Mets. So I'm not worried about the Yankees' full starting rotation. I'm worried about the Yankees' bullpen. And where this bullpen is going to be. But being that it's a short season, you don't have to worry because you're not going to have to overdo Zach Britton. You're not going to have to overdo Chapman. You're not going to have to overdo Chad Green, who every single year has just been beaten up later in the season. Right. With being that there's 62 or 72 games taken off the list this season, it really helps the Yankees. I think the Yankees are positioned very well in that state. As far as the players concerned, like if they want to add Correa or Story or Freeman, I think it affects the Yankees very much so.
Yeah, I think the Yankees are going to definitely have to look at depth for the pitching for sure once this lockout does end up happening. We'll see if they end up trading for the big moves like the Luis Castillo we've heard in the past, but depth is definitely going to be a key, especially for the Mets too when it comes to the bullpen depth as well, because they thought they added it last year with May, Diaz bouncing back the way he did, but the other guys were down, like May was down, Lugo was down, guys like that. So both teams are going to have to end up trying to figure that out. The other thing that could benefit both these teams, though, is the alleged rumor coming out of Monday after the lockout was that there's going to be likely a 12-team playoff, expanding to the 12 teams where it's 6 teams per conference, and they make it like the NFL playoffs the way that was structured. God. But that could help the Yankees and the Mets. The Yankees, they made the playoffs, but they were very much 2 games away from not being in the playoffs at the same time. And the Mets were still going to be in a tough division.
And there were 2 games of having home field advantage in the wild card game.
But that's how close it could be. And especially in the American League East for the Yankees, it's going to be a tough division. That extra team, you could have all 4 teams make it in that case. That could end up helping the Yankees too. And same thing with the Mets, who have a tough National League East. not as hard as the American League East, but the Braves obviously World Series
The American League,
champions.
year in and year out, is the best division in baseball. You can't even argue that. If you look at the Blue Jays, a growing team, the Yankees are a good team, the Red Sox, Tampa Bay, I mean, come on. That division's ridiculous.
I think that division, has had multiple playoff teams pretty much every year